Have you seen these type of exceptions when you are running your APIs? Your API crashes and suddenly your users can see the entire database structure or the full stack trace. It looks messy, it's a massive security risk, and to be honest, it's a bit embarrassing. What if I told you that you can catch every single error on one central place and you can return a clean professional message every time? Today, I'm going to show you the modern way to do the global error handling in .NET apps using the new IExceptionHandler interface. Let's get into it. In the old days, we used the custom middleware and the try-catch blocks everywhere. .NET 8 introduced a much cleaner way to handle the errors globally in one central place. This approach prevents the sensitive data leak and ensures that your API follow the problem details standard. A fancy way of saying that your error looks the same every time. Whether you are a beginner just starting with the web API or a seasoned developer just cleaning up your architecture, this video tutorial is for you. When an error happens in your code, like missing a user or a validation failure, it bubbles up. If you don't catch this error, the web server catches it and shows the user everything. We want to build a safety net on top of our application to catch these errors, log them for the developers, finally display the user a polite "something went wrong" message instead. To implement the global exception handler in ASP.NET Core Web APIs project, we first need to create a class that will implement the IExceptionHandler interface. So let's create a class in the Web API project. I'm going to name this class Global Exception Handler. As I just mentioned, this class needs to implement the IExceptionHandler interface. This interface has just one method, tryHandleAsync, which we need to implement. This method gives us access to the underlying exception and also provides us the HTTP context. Using this HTTP request, we can get even more details about the HTTP request. Before we start the implementation of tryHandleAsync method, we need to make sure that we are injecting the iLogger interface in this class. Let's inject the iLogger interface using the primary constructor. This logger will help us to log the errors for the developers so that they can see these errors in some sort of monitoring tool such as the application insights. Let's use this logger object to log the exception. Next, we can create a problem detail object. This object will be an instance of ProblemDetails class. ProblemDetails is a built-in standard for error messages and it keeps our API errors professional and consistent. Now, to build this ProblemDetails object, we need to set some of its properties. For example, the first property is a status property. In this property, we need to specify what status code we want to send. We can choose one of the status code associated with the errors. For example, we can specify 500 internal server error. Next, we need to specify the title of the error, which could be any string, and in this case, we can specify server error. There is also a property to specify the detail of the error, and here we can specify the more user-friendly message for the user. For example, here we can specify that an unexpected error occurred, please try again later. And finally, we can specify the instance property. Here in this property, we can specify the request URL which caused the error. And we can get that URL using the http context.request.path. We are now ready to send the response. First, we need to set the response status code. And we can set this using the http context.response object. We need to set the status code property to the same status code we specified with the problem details. So here we can use the problem details.status.value. And finally, we are ready to write the response. And we can write the response using the write-as-JSON-Sync method available in the http context.response object. So let's use that method here and pass the problem details as a parameter. Finally, we need to return true. If we return false here, the .NET would keep looking for other error handlers, or it will show the default error page. Now that our global exception handler is ready, we need to tell the application how to use it. I'm going to open the program.cs file, and here in this file, we need to register our global exception handler. First, we need to register our global exception handler so that application knows it exists. We can do this using the addExceptionHandler methods. So let's call that method here. This method will accept the name of our class as a generic class. As we are using the problem details in our exception handler, we also need to register the problem details services. And this can be done using the addProblemDetails method. Last but not least, we also need to use the useExceptionHandler method to turn on the global error handling logic in the request pipeline. Now let's run this application. And this time you can see instead of returning the full stack trace, we are returning a much cleaner and professional looking error message. your API is now safer and much more professional. The global exception handler we just implemented will now catch all the exceptions and the errors occurred in your application. If you found this video useful, please smash the like button and also subscribe to my channel for more .NET tips. I will see you in the next video.